Hello and welcome to the 21st Century Work-Life podcast, where we talk about leading remote teams, online collaboration, and working in distributed organizations. My name is Pilar Orti, and I'm the director of Virtual Not Distant, a company where we help managers of remote teams to get the most out of online collaboration. You can find out everything we do over at virtualnotdistant.com. Hello and welcome to another episode of the 21st Century Work-Life podcast. My name is Pilar Orti, if we haven't met before. And today I have another guest for you, and someone who I'm really interested in talking to because I've got so many questions for him. And his name is Bastian Siepman, and he is the co-founder and Asana consultant of IDO or IDO. How do I say the company name,
Actually, it's I do.
I do,
we
yes.
built the name around the verb I do things.
Yes.
It's related to productivity, so it's I do.
Yeah, and I have to say that when I went on their website, that was very clear. But somehow from my Trello notes and in the excitement of introducing you, I lost it.
No
Bastian Siepman, is that right?
That's perfect. Don't worry
excellent.
about it.
Listen, listeners. Yeah, I think this is the world we live in. It's the don't worry about it world, isn't it? Great. So
Do you know that actually?
Yes.
A quick anecdote. Do you know that on LinkedIn, I think now you can actually record the way your name needs to be pronounced. Have you seen this?
Yes, I have. But I have to admit, not checking yours out.
I haven't done it. I just remembered that.
Go for it. Do it. I found one person realized that I'd done it. I think only one person. So, and it's and Slack has got it now as well. But you might
really?
not use
Okay.
Slack because if you're an Asana person, do you use Slack?
Oh, actually, it's a good question. Asana, the company, actually uses Slack as well.
That's very interesting. I wasn't aware of that. Excellent. So let's first just introduce those listeners who haven't come across Asana, which is an online collaboration tool. I'll let you describe it first, and I might chip in with my own experience of it. So before we go into why you are such an advocate for this, what is Asana?
Asana is actually a work management platform that allows you to work together with your team effortlessly. So you can collaborate on a daily basis. You can see what's happening with the project. And the whole thing is built around who does what by when. So you can have clarity about what's happening. It also works very well as an individual. And I've done a lot of things just by myself in my own Asana account. And it just works great.
And can I say, in some ways, it can be similar to Trello. I mean, I know it has huge differences, but is that right? Would you say that depending on how you're using it?
Actually, there's a joke going around saying that Trello is an Asana feature because Trello is the board view and Asana has the board view in addition to other things. But I think Trello, for a few months now, have been improving a lot, and they do have a lot of new views now. So it's becoming better, but it's definitely in the same domain, same ecosystem.
Great. I would love to hear. And we'll do that in a bit. How we can use the tool, because I think it's one of the tools that I've been aware of even before I was aware of Trello. Actually, they've been around for, at least in my mind, quite a bit. And I was surprised that one team I worked with, it was a 12-person team. They didn't have anything to visualize their workflow and to visualize their tasks yet. And we did an exercise where we had a number of questions that they came up with as well of what they wanted their tools to do. And they seemed, well, in the end, they went with Asana because I think it just gave them a broader, I think they could do more with it, or it was more what they wanted. I think it was more scalable, maybe. So it's really interesting to look at the differences between these tools when we're choosing them and really pick something that is going to last us for a while, I imagine.
Yeah, and to be honest, one of the problems I currently have is I don't know the other tools well enough because I'm just so in love with Asana. I've been using Asana for more than 10 years. I just don't want to look at the other tools. I want to do everything I can around Asana, but I do get asked a lot how to decide between different tools. So I do have to look at them a little bit. And I know Asana is better in terms of scalability, but it's also much simpler compared to other tools like Smartsheets or Rike. And it's really simpler, easier to use, but not as customizable, for example.
Uh-huh.
So I think there's really a tool for everybody depending on what you need.
And sometimes there is value in going, well, let's see if this one fits. And if it doesn't, you can go and look at something else. But actually, if we start comparing everything, we can also never choose something.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure you can do crazy stuff with Trello if you have the right people helping you and if you spend time in the tool. It's just about knowing the tool well enough to do everything that you need to do. And I'm pretty sure you can go crazy with Excel and really do crazy stuff with Excel as well. Yeah.
I think that's a great point. Thank you for that. That's really important. So let's start with your story, and we'll come back to the tool, because I am fascinated about the fact that how you started and how you ended up being a consultant for Asana, and then we'll go into all the bits around the tool change, helping people adapt it. So where does your story start?
Actually starts 10 years ago. I created my first company. It was a small agency and we were looking for a tool. And I think we had to choose between Zoho and Asana. And I think
Yeah.
it was the only two tools we could choose from 10 years ago. We might have looked at Trello. I'm not sure that existed back then. We actually chose Asana and starting to use it. And I just became better. And I've seen opportunities to build what was called a template gallery, because we were managing the agency with Asana, creating all those projects, and I wanted to share the structure we created with others. And I thought there was value in being able to share that structure. That structure was called a template. And at the time, there was no way of sharing project with other people outside of your Asana account. So I created a tool called Templana. So templates plus Asana Templana. And it was a way to share templates and even sell templates to others. And I started doing this, and that got some traction and attention. And I just kept doing other things around Asana. I started writing a lot. I actually wrote a couple of books about Asana. And then one day, someone asked me if they could pay me to help them. And I was really afraid because it was the first consulting opportunity I had, and it was in English. And I had like the imposter syndrome, and I had no idea what my level of expertise was because there was no forum back then. I had no idea if I was good enough. So I accepted, I did the consulting call, and actually after 5 minutes, I already gave him a lot of tips and tricks. So I really realized I was quite good at doing this, and I kept doing it. I was a web developer during the day, and I was doing Asana related things during my lunch break and during the evening. And it was actually quite good for me because I'm based in France, so I was having my day job in France, and in the evenings I was able to serve the US. And I couldn't have done that if I was actually based in the US because people do not work after hours. So I've been doing that for a couple of years, working between 1 and 3 evenings during the week. And at one point, I had too many clients, so I asked at work if I could actually work less for them and work a little bit more around Asana. And that small Asana related part just grew bigger and bigger and bigger until that became my job full time, which happened, I think, 3 months ago. Because I have been
That
doing this
soon.
part time. Yeah, no. I've been doing this for 10 years, but just on the side. And I've been doing a lot of things, and people did not realize it wasn't my job at all. I was doing something else during the day and doing Asana related things in the evenings. And last year, Asana reached out to me and my colleague, Julian, asking if we wanted to become partners because they created a partner program so you could actually be an official partner and help clients like for real. And that's what we did.
Wonderful. That I've come across the maybe not the partner program of Asana, of course, but the community seems pretty strong. So when I was helping this client start to adopt some online tools, I thought, well, I'd better learn a little bit about Asana myself just to see, just so I can help them to set it up, etc. And Morgan Legg, who has been on the show, was something like, I don't know if she was an
Yeah, I know her. I
ambassador or
talked to her a
something.
few weeks ago, I think, Morgan. Yeah.
You see, yes, she's wonderful, and I don't know, she she took me somewhere. I don't know. She put me somewhere then when I saw there was a lot of help around it. So is that right? Have I got the right sense that there is quite a strong community around it, or it's just that they're very organized?
I think it's both, and I like to think that I'm part of the I'm part of the success of the community, because you might not know this, but I'm actually the person that posted the most uh, ever on that community. And I posted like
Wow.
thousands of posts, actually more than some of the Asana employees that are supposed to moderate and answer people on the forum.
Yeah, I do have that. You became a forum champion, and there's only 10 recognized experts in the world, and then a
Yeah, it's
certified
actually
pro, a forum lead. Oh,
yeah.
is it more now?
Yeah. I'm trying to collect all the badges I can.
Yes, it's
And
great.
yeah,
Yeah.
actually now it's called Forum Leaders. I think it's about 20 to 25 people now doing this. And
Yeah.
we are recognized by Asana as leaders, and we try to help as much as we can. It has been really interesting for me to go there, because that allows me to see a lot of use cases. That's the
Uh,
first thing. So that's my best way of learning is going to the forum, and that also brought me a lot of clients. And all of my clients, all of our clients, actually come from the content we create and our presence on the forum. So it has been really helpful to be there and help people for free in order to get clients to come to us for paid consultations, basically.
Wonderful, very interesting. And I have to ask you, and maybe this wasn't on our notes, so I hope it's okay. But so, what is it about Asana then that got you so interested in the first place, and then has carried you into the business? Because it really sounds like it is just something that you feel quite strongly about.
Yeah, I think I have a bit of OCD, and I like to have things very organized and very clean and neat.
Yeah.
And I think Asana allows me to have this. I have my task list. I can define dates. I can push things into the future. They come back to me. I can manage different projects at the same time. I can do so many things at the same time while being super efficient and productive. I think that's what led me to use Asana and try to have inbox zero and all this kind of stuff. I feel at peace when everything is organized, basically.
I love that as well. I love that vision because a lot of people see tools as an extra burden or something, and actually you found a connection with it that actually makes your life more pleasant.
Yeah, and
So
actually
that's
allowed
great.
me to really go further than my day job, allowed me to have a second job on the side and grow that job and write books and just do a lot of things. And it would have been impossible without a tool like Asana or another tool. You just can't manage so many things, and you can't juggle so many balls without having a very clear system and the right tool that goes with it.
Nice, thank you. And then I want to ask, I've got a question to ask you from something you said earlier, right at the beginning when you were using it in your company. And you were, if I understood correctly, you were trying, you were sharing templates with people
Mhm.
outside the organization. Was that clients or who were the external people you were sharing the templates with?
It's the community as a whole. So basically, the project that still exists to this day, you have free templates and paid templates. So, for example, if you write a book using Asana, you probably developed a system, a structure, a specific list of tasks in order to publish your book. So you can share that list with the community, either for free, or you can also sell this to people in the community. And I actually realized that there was a third way of doing business, which was having coaches create coaching programs in Asana and selling those programs to their own clients. So I've been doing some B2B2C business by using this trick and giving them the technology to actually share their coaching program with others, uh, and not by just exporting a project and re-importing as a CSV. Just doesn't look good from the outside.
Uh-huh.
So Templana was the solution to do this.
Wow, excellent. Good, thank you. So let's start now into maybe where how you work with people. Am I right? Somebody in the Asana community sees you've posted something or a lot of stuff that's really helpful, and then they go, "What do they say? Do they say, 'Can you help my team?' How does that conversation start?"
I think there's two options. Some of them come to us because of tools we created. Because I have a developer background, I created a bunch of tools that make Asana better. So I
Okay.
created things around Asana itself. Because Asana has something that's called an API, allowing you to talk to Asana and listen to Asana. So you can basically create things around Asana. And Templana was actually an example of this, allowing you to share a template so you can read from Asana and write into Asana as well. So some of them come to us saying, I've seen the tool you've made. Can you make that other tool for us and help us? And others, and actually that happens very often, say, you showed us ways of using Asana we didn't know existed, and we feel like we're not using the tool to its full extent. And there's a lot of things we're not using. Can you help us uncover those areas and help us just use the tool better? And that happens very, very often.
Yeah, I'm really interested in that. So, do they sometimes then ask you what you've already got? I mean, that's one example. You said they've seen that you've got something that you can add, hook in. Um, what what kind of things are they? And do they ever come and ask, "Oh, I would love the tool to do this. Can you do that for me?" There's those two scenarios, I think.
Yeah, so just an example, in Asana, you have task, project, and you can put project together in portfolios. Okay.
Hmm.
And placing project in portfolios is a manual process. So you add a project to a portfolio, you remove the project from a portfolio. What we see over and over again are people saying, I want all my project to go to my portfolio, or I want all completed project to be removed from the portfolio and go into another portfolio. And there's a lot of scenarios like this where the technology can actually help and streamline everything. And I have a lot of automations going on for my clients that do this sort of sorting, triaging, cleaning to make sure that their tool is clean on a daily basis.
Have you had people say, I'm working with Asana and I would love it if Asana could XYZ? Or is there a way, or is there something you could build so that Asana integrates with, I don't know, Slack or whatever?
Yeah, so that happens as well very often. We usually try to answer those questions by using existing things. It's easier and it's cheaper. There's an existing Slack integration. There's a lot of existing integrations as well. We also try to point out existing features that they might have overseen, they might have
Ah.
missed. So we try to find some workarounds, and then in the last resort is to actually code something, and that's not always possible, either because it's technically not possible or because it's just too expensive to do anything to solve the specific problem they have.
Okay, so that's one scenario is when they want to understand or want to get more functionality out of the tool. Is there then a scenario where they're okay with what they've got, but they know they could be using it better? Is that something that you help people with as well?
Yeah, definitely that happens quite a lot. And after 5 minutes of the client sharing their screen, you can spot everything that can be improved. And it's always the same topics. And what's funny is that I've talked about those over and over again on the forum, in books and on LinkedIn and everywhere, but people just want to get tailored help and they want to know exactly what to do. They don't want to chase information. So I try to condense everything into those sessions, and it always revolves around using the colors properly, using naming conventions, organizing the project around custom fields and sections, and try to make it everything clean and clear at the same time. So it's usually always the same thing. And for me, Asana is a set of building blocks that you can organize in different ways to reach the same goal. And only someone with experience can know that a specific arrangement does work long term, and another one might actually lead to problems down the line. So we always try to find the right way to arrange those blocks to respect the constraints they have and try to reach the goals they have.
This is fascinating because it really, and I've always thought that I take quite well to these kind of online tools. And I wonder if it's because I like structure as well. And I like structure so I can have a lot of chaos because my working life is quite chaotic. There's loads of different stuff. So I need like I always have 5 email addresses because I like to compartmentalize everything. And it would drive me crazy to have one email address for everything. So I've always thought whether there's a kind of thinking style that warms more to these tools, and that can see that at the beginning you've got to, well, or as you go along, you've got to structure a certain way, you've got to agree on a certain way of working with this, and it's not just a question of okay, let's go. um, how do you find how do you find that people have adopted the tool? Is it, do you, as you're talking to them, or do you ever find this out? Do you find out, well, they just adopted it and started, or they did try to find out a way, or was one person the one that said, okay, we're going to work it like this? I'm curious to see how teams start playing with these tools.
I think it's always starts with one person that introduces the tool to the team. And usually that's the champion that knows the tool already or will spend time to discover the tool and help the others. And that's what we've seen over and over again. And we try to empower them to become even better. And that's actually the way we work. We always try to teach the teacher. So we help the champion to become better so they can spread the good words within the company. And we try to make sure that we can leave after a few weeks and they can be autonomous in the way they work. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your
Yes.
question.
Yeah, it does. And it just shows the importance that, for me, it's like, however big or small the change, it's a change program, and you need the champion, and you need the person who's on top of
Yeah.
the program. You can't just say, oh yeah, let's all take responsibility. Yeah, but you need one person.
Yeah, it doesn't work. And I've seen that at companies where we trained the champion and the champion left, and that company comes back to us after 1 or 2 years and it's just a mess because no one maintained the space. So this kind of tool, it's not magical. You have to set them properly. You have to train people properly and you have to maintain them. It just doesn't clean up itself. It just doesn't exist. And the training part, even if the tool seems fairly easy, it's really important. And I'm guessing it's the same for Trello. Even if that seems really easy, you can really benefit from having a proper training because there are lots of ways to do the same things and a lot of bad ways and just a few good ways to do the same thing in the tool.
Yeah, I find the same with Trello. And I think any kind of tool, because it always looks like something we might have come across, because I think almost everyone has been online in some shape or form and either come across a forum type of thing or a project management tool kind of thing. And maybe we've touched it, we've dabbed in it, or we were in a team where it was kind of used. And I think it's like, have you used this before? Oh, yeah, I know how to use it.
What the funny thing is, it happens with email as well. Nobody teaches you how to
Uh-huh.
use email, but most people do not use email correctly. And when I see people with 300 unread emails, I'm like, it's impossible. You can't work like this. And even if they tell you they're on top of things, they aren't, and they just have that mental load in their head. So maybe we should be trained on using emails.
Well, I'm gutted you made that comparison, because I've always said that email is this tool that nobody decided how to use it, that nobody thought about how to use it, and then no one agreed how to use it. And that's where we are now. So yeah, we run, like you say, exactly the same danger with this. And so you've already named, okay, a champion leaves. There's no one is maintaining the tool. And I think it's really important, like you're making me think. I've recently started using the word environment. I'm sure it's not new for the different tools that we use online, because for me, if we think of them as environments, then we can see that different environments are better for some conversations. As you said, that they need maintaining. I mean, nobody would think of having an office that nobody cleans and looks after. Well, some might, but
Exactly.
however, it's okay to not pay attention to what's going on in the tool and just let it do its thing. So champion, understanding how to use the tool, maintaining it. Is there anything else that you've seen that prevents a team from adopting this in a way that helps them?
I think the biggest problem we see is the leadership not using the tool. And I've talked with CEOs telling me, I want my team to use Asana. I will not use Asana, but I want them to use Asana. And I'm telling them it's the wrong way of looking at it, because Asana is also about being able to assign things to the CEO or asking questions. But they say, no, it's not for me. I use email. It's fine. I want my team to use Asana. And that usually ends up badly.
You've mentioned something interesting. So there's a lot of things, and I was just grimacing so much, listeners, when Bastien was saying that, because it's the classic. Yeah, everyone else can do it, but it's okay. I don't need to. And I think it's more of a, like you said, not understanding at quite a senior level that actually this environment, it's not a tool, people, the way we're using it now, this environment also has a space for you in the senior leadership. You mentioned something specific now. You said you can ask questions to the CEO through Asana. Is that something that you've seen done, like get communication at a more senior level from the ground up through the tool, or something that you've
Yeah,
thought of? Or
I think usually people don't do it, but they do. You can't ask people to work in Asana, publish status updates if the leadership doesn't look at the status updates. And I think that's important, that because Asana is built in a way that they created something called the pyramid of clarity. So it's a pyramid made of the task at the bottom, then you have the project, portfolios, goals, and the mission at the top. So it's all about everyone collaborating to reach the mission of the company. And if you do not have people working at the top and looking at what's happening at the top, I think it just doesn't work. And there's no point in working below if no one cares above. And if you get the CEO sending you emails to ask about what's going on, then you have a problem with the adoption.
what you're saying is really important in so many ways. I mean, you've reminded us of how an organization works, and it is this connection between the tasks and all the way up to the mission. And I think that in adopting technology, a lot of the time we've forgotten about that actually what technology is doing is enabling us to work all that way up. So in a way, everyone who's involved up that pyramid needs to be involved in what's happening in the tool in some way. I mean, we're not asking everyone to be there all the time, but that's really interesting. So have you seen any CEOs who have embraced the environment and therefore made use of it, or not quite yet? What's some of the ways in which you've seen different levels of the organization really embracing the tool?
What I've seen recently, we did an implementation for a client. They had about 50 different employees, and
Mhm.
they were really happy with the work we did together, because they were finally being able to see who was working on what. And they had, thanks to the Asana and portfolios and the workload feature, they were able to see exactly who's doing what, how busy they are. Do you need to shift work between people? Do they have the bandwidth to take on another project? And that's all done without looking at specific tasks. They just do that from the top of the pyramid, looking at portfolios and the workload feature. And when you have project and portfolios feeding into goals, then it's even better, because you can see everything that's happening and you can see where you need to put your attention. And that's something we talk about very often with portfolios. You see all those projects and you have the project status bubble up from the team into the portfolio. So when you have 20 different projects and you have a weekly meeting, it's important to know what are the 2 or 3 projects you need to talk about. You don't have time to go through everything. And I think Asana gives you that flexibility and that information of knowing, I need to talk about those 2 projects first because they are blocked and there's an issue, and the rest is on track. We don't have to talk about it.
That's fascinating, because I'd never thought. I mean, I'm not a user of it at all, so I'd never thought of beyond. To be honest, beyond the task level. That's where I look at it. I
Yeah.
look at it, but I love that you can use it as a strategic tool as well, from the sounds of it. Yeah. So let's go back to why people come to you for help. So we've had the people who are already using the tool in some way. Do you also work with people who might be looking for something to help them and didn't know the tool? Or at the moment, are you mainly working with people who already know the tool?
People already knowing the tool, that was the situation before, because I was so active on the forum and just people came to me saying, we chose Asana, can you help us? And it was really, really easy for me because I knew Asana could help. it's becoming harder because people come to us saying, we need help. We need to choose between those tools. We're doing some RFP and you need to make a demo and a second demo and a third demo. And you need to convince us to do something. So that becomes harder, but also more interesting, right?
Yeah. Okay, good. So let's yeah, this is meaty. So what are some of the questions you ask them, these people at the beginning? So I'm trying to understand which are the teams or organizations that would benefit most. So what are some of the questions you ask them when you start working with these people?
We always try to go back to the original event that triggered the discussion around choosing a tool. And usually that
Got
allows you
it.
to understand what's happening. And I've had someone, when I asked, the best answer I got was someone telling me, I showed a new employee the way we work and I was ashamed of the way we work and I knew we
Oh.
had to do something. And I think this was really good. And we just
Mm.
have people saying it's just too complex. We have all those Excel files. It's just a mess. We have no clarity and they just drown with emails and just too hard. So one day they just decide they need to get help. Also, something that has been happening that has been amazing is people that have been following me for several years, they change companies and they go somewhere and they see there's nothing in place. There's no Asana. So they reach out to me saying, I can finally work with you. I couldn't in the past because we had, I don't know, Monday or whatever. But now I'm at a new company. We have nothing and it's a mess. Can you help us implement Asana at the company?
Nice. So once you found where the need comes from, and I love that, what are some of the, do you ask them anything about their workflows, the way they work, their products? I don't know. What are some of the conversations you have with them around
Yeah,
that?
definitely. So the list of questions is basically, why do you think you need a tool? How do you currently work? What are the other tools you use? So what's the ecosystem? How are you structured in terms of teams? Who decided you need a tool? And I think that's an important question because sometimes decision comes from the top. Someone says, you need a tool because I want to monitor things. And sometimes it comes from the bottom saying, we need to structure because it's a mess. But nobody asked for reporting at the top. So it's important to understand where it comes from. Um, yeah, how many people, and also what's the overall feeling in the company? Does everyone feel overwhelmed, or is it just one person, like the assistant, that she feels overwhelmed and she needs help, but everyone else is like, no, I'm fine with email. Let's just send everything to her and she deals with it. It's okay. So it's important to understand all the dynamics of who needs it, who is supposed to pay for it, who needs to decide, and you put everything and you mix it and you try to offer something.
That's fascinating. The fact that actually there might just be a person, or I imagine a set of people that are overwhelmed, but actually other people aren't. So in
Yeah,
that case, what would you do if that's the case? If there's, I mean, I'm sure there's lots of other factors, so it might be a bit weird thing, but what do you do if that's the case, that imbalance?
we try to get I come from the world of knowing the tool and trying to teach the tool to people. I don't come from the adoption and change management
Uh-huh.
perspective. So when I came into a company, they hired me to implement the tool. So at first, I wasn't doing any politics, and there was no discussion around. I never asked for the tool. Please leave. And now we are supposed to do some change management more and more and adoption more and more because we work with bigger and bigger companies, and we usually walk into an environment where half of the people wanted the tool and the other half just didn't need anything, or they had something else and they had to give it up. So that might become um, more and more complex, basically. So really, things started to change when we started to work with bigger companies.
And can you share some of the stories? I mean, without obviously without naming anything, or some of the suppositions as well. I'm really interested in how that adoption process could look like. I mean, it's a huge question, um, but is it a question of explaining the benefits? Is it a question of getting them to try it? What are some of the strategies?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of different things. The first one is giving them a demo of what the tool can do and really showing them kind of the best things you can do with the tool. I can show them the way I use the tool, the way the company uses the tool, to show them we're really efficient. Then it's about setting up the processes properly. It has to be clear, it has to be clean. I like to use colors properly. I like to use emojis to make it nice and fun to use. So really trying to make it clear and clean. And then it's about training them to know exactly how to use the tool. And we don't just train them on the features, we train them on the best practices. We share tips and tricks based on what we've seen in the past. And we try to get them to disable emails and replace email. And I always try to teach around notifications, being overloaded with work, trying to reduce that feeling of that overwhelming feeling. So I try to talk about all this, because most people, they don't use email properly. They have browser notifications popping up all the time, and it's just a mess in their lives. So I'm trying to teach them how to use tools in general, through the way of using Asana.
Oh, I love that. That you're trying to teach them how to use tools in general through Asana. Thank you for doing that, by the way, because I think that's another thing that I think we need to know as 21st century knowledge workers, and in fact, anyone who's using these tools, is that as we're learning one tool, there's a lot of stuff in that tool that we're going to be able to use when we use another platform. That there's a lot of things that these tools have, which are they're just foundations of work project management tools, collaboration platforms, etc. Things like notifications, things like when do we continue using email, when is it just a platform, etc.
Yeah.
So I think that's really good. Yeah, it's really important. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things that I explained with Asana is that we try to replace long email chains with everyone involved, and replace that with a lot of small tasks, very small scope, simple decisions between a handful of people. So it looks overwhelming at first, because you go from 10 emails to 50 tasks, but it's 50 tasks that are very small and very easy to deal with. And you can delegate, you can delete, you can complete, you can push forward to another date. So it's a different ways of looking at things, but I think it's really easier to manage on a daily basis. And no one wants to go back to email chains anyway.
Yeah. So I've got a technical question for you. Um, I'm I'm struggling with what to recommend for tagging on these kind of tools, tagging people. So I am of the view that if you're using something like Asana, it should be something that you go and check every day at some point. Of course, we're not doing that all day, but I am of the view of going there and looking at your notifications and everything there and being on top of it. But I understand why people are tagging all the time. So instead of assuming that everyone is looking at the thing and seeing what the updates have been on the board, that actually people need to know that they are needed. What do you recommend? What's the balance of tagging versus just knowing that people are looking at the thing?
One thing with Asana is that by default, anything you do on a task will only notify collaborators, right? And by default, there's no one there, only you, because you created the task or someone else did. So if you really want to notify everyone, you have to go through the pain of adding everyone one by typing their name. And it's not just like email. You can't just answer to everyone and just change the topic. It doesn't work this way in Asana. You have to mention people one by one. And even if you do, I teach people to leave conversations. It doesn't happen with email chains. You can't leave. You're stuck in the discussion. With Asana, you can always remove yourself from a task. You can remove yourself as a collaborator. And that's a big change in the way you work. It's just like walking away from a meeting that you don't care about. That's possible in Asana at the task level. You remove yourself. And you can even announce yourself saying, okay, everyone, I'm leaving the task. I think I've helped. Make sure to bring me back if I can help further. You remove yourself. You shouldn't be notified about things you don't care about. You should be able to choose exactly what you want to be notified about, and you should have the ability to go and find the information you're looking for, but you do not have to be notified about everything. And that's quite hard at first, because I've worked with companies where CEOs technically wanted to be a collaborator on everything. And I told them I think it's the wrong way of looking at it. It's just not possible. So first, technically, it's a bit hard to do. And then you're just going to be drowning in notifications. It's just going to be so hard to manage. So you need to find a way to delegate things to others and maybe get notified just when the work is done, but not being notified about everything that's happening.
I, the same thing, I'm just nodding because the same thing happens with Trello. You've got in your cards at a very basic level, you can add yourself to the card, you can remove yourself from the card. And I am finding that that is something that people are not used to doing because we're used to being passive. Like you say, you're used to receiving that email. Actually, no, you decide, now I'm working on this, now I'm not. And when I'm not, bye-bye. And also people can see it.
It's really hard. And so I've been using Asana for 10 years. And 6 months ago, I realized I was actually removing people as collaborators before commenting on a task because I didn't want them to be overwhelmed. And I thought I'm doing exactly the opposite of what I'm teaching. That should be their work, their job to remove themselves if they don't care. I'm not the one that needs to decide if they care or not. That's their job. So I should just work. And if they don't want to be notified, they can just remove themselves.
Again, I think this is part of that initial, actually ongoing conversation about how we're working and reminding ourselves that, hey, we're here, because things do get missed, if not also people not understanding that some people have stopped working on a task and stuff. And I love the point that you made about some maybe more senior management wanting to be kept in the loop through notifications, but actually you've got the board at any point if you really want to know, and just for your peace of mind, you can go in and no one needs to know that you're looking.
Yeah, exactly. So what I tell them is you have project dashboards, you have reporting, you can even create a recurring task saying go check project A, B, and C every day. And you can always use the search to search for specific things assigned to specific people, completed in the last X days. There's a lot of ways of seeing what's happening without having to deal with all the day-to-day notifications.
Great. Good. Well, I really could talk to you all day about this because this is the level of detail that I enjoy, because this is the level of detail where people get lost, really. You know, all these things, these are where the issues are. Just things like not being used to adding ourselves to conversations, adding ourselves to tasks, being so mindful about other people. So, but I'm mindful of your time and the file size on our listeners' habits. So just you've got, if you don't mind talking about, you've got a, as I understand, because I did some research, some stalking on online, some research on you, is that that you have a new art project you're working on where each Asana task generates a unique image. Is this something that you can talk about?
Yeah, I can. It's just one of those weird things we do. I have no idea where that came from, but I was thinking, would it be cool if you could have an image that would be unique for a specific task? Like if you can generate the image representing a task, and because the task, the ID number of a task is unique in the world and even in the history of Asana, that no one would have exactly the same image as you.
Ah.
And I was thinking, might be fun to try this. I have no way where this is going to lead, but just for the sake of it, let's try. So I started to think about it, and the solution I came up with was the task ID number is based of, I think it's 16 digits. Could be 0, 1, 2, 3 to 9, and you have that 16 times. Okay. So the idea was to have 16 layers, each layer having 10 different variations. And then for a unique number, you can have an image made of those 16 layers and the right combination.
Right.
So I started to think about all the different layers, and I started to think about the design. And I was like, okay, so the first layer is going to be the sky. I need to have 10 different sky patterns, and then the stars, and then the sand, and then the pyramids, and then some details. And if you combine all of those, you get a unique image that represents a specific task. And I have I don't know what I'm going to do with this, but it was a technically interesting challenge to go through.
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant idea because, again, talk about ownership. I think it just reinforces the ownership of the task, the team identity even. I mean, we're always One of the things that I struggle with is that a lot of these tools have very little visual customization. So it doesn't matter which tool you're using. If it's with this team, that team, they more or less look the same. It can be a bit darker or whiter, or or you can change the image. And so anything for me that makes what is there unique to the people using it, I think is brilliant. So I hope it works.
And the way the project is turning is, I realized each task has a story behind. And I thought that image could actually be the cover of the story. So what I'm doing right now is every week I'm picking one task I completed in the last 7 days. I generate the image that goes with it, and I tell the story of the task. And I think the next step would be to go towards the NFT world and basically saying you can generate an image linked to a task. No one can have the same task. It's a unique task. Only you has the right to generate the image, and that could be your representation of your unique task.
Wonderful. And I love how you're bringing loads of different worlds together in this way, lots of different ways of using technology and all. Yeah, excellent. Great. Well, I am going to have to leave you now. But Bastian, is there anything else you want to say to our listeners about what you do or Asana or adopting a tool before we send them to wherever they can connect with you?
Yeah, I think if you want to adopt a tool like Asana, the same works with any other tool. Get help. Even if you just have a few $100 just to talk to someone for an hour or two, just get help to know what are the best practices, the tips and tricks, and the things to avoid. Try not to do everything by yourself, and really find the right person to help you and get help.
Wonderful. So if listeners want to connect with you, Bastian Siebman, I'll send them to LinkedIn once, if that's okay.
Yeah, LinkedIn is the best.
Would you like to give the website URL?
The company is called IDO, so the address is ido-clarity.com. If someone wants to buy ido.com and give it to me for free, that would be super nice. It's currently being owned by someone else, but the website is ido-clarity.com.
That's wonderful. No one has ever asked something like that from the audience. I love it. You never know. You just never know.
Yeah, it's the kind of domain name that doesn't have a price tag attached to it, but you know that it's going to be very expensive as soon as you ask.
Yeah, excellent. Well, Bastian, this has been really wonderful. I hope that the listeners have got so much from the conversation, and as I have. So thank you very, very much for your time.
My pleasure. Have a good day.
A big thank you to Ross Winter for polishing the audio of this episode. And thank you, listeners, for choosing to listen to the 21st Century Work Life podcast. Remember to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app, and you can check out the full show notes over at virtualnotdistant.com/podcasts. Talking of podcasts, we have another show you can listen to, Management Cafe, which you should also be able to find on all podcast apps. I have been Pilar Ortiz. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, enjoy.